Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and part 2 of the GCN reaction video. I will post the link for video 1 down below. And just to catch up the folks who have not been here before, this was a video where they talked about, I think, 7 or 8 things that cycling tech slowing you down, I think was the clickbait title or something like that. And they said, okay, these things are very functional, but there are other options, or what their thoughts were on, things being heavier or not Aero or something like that. So I decided to take those 8 points and give you my opinion on them and my perspective on how I see things, because I think that, one, it might endear some of you to my channel. You might be like, okay, yeah, I like the way he thinks. That's a channel I want to follow. And number 2, maybe it gives you a different perspective on how you see your cycling tech or your stuff. And, maybe it gives you an alternate view on things. Okay, so let's get back to the topics, and we're going to go with number 5. So we left off number 4. Number 5, they talked about head units being a distraction, having your head unit. And if you don't know what I'm talking about a cycling computer head unit. And in the previous video, I talked about phones. So you may want to go back and look at that one. But it got me thinking that some of my thoughts on power meters. And I've always been of the opinion that a power meter and power numbers motivate. And so when I coach my clients, I focus on power above all other metrics. All other metrics would be things like heart rate or cadence or speed. To me, all of that is completely irrelevant if you're not producing the power that you're supposed to be producing. So much so that I want my client, or even myself when I ride, to focus on power regardless of what the heart rate is doing. So if you're climbing a hill and your target power is supposed to be, see, this is the thing. This is what typically is said in coaching lingo, is target heart rate. Your target power for that interval is, let's say, 300, just a number. I don't care where your heart rate is doing. I want you to hold 300 or 200, whatever the value is for that person. I think power motivates someone. The reason I don't use heart rate as a metric is because I think it limits people. So power motivates, heart rate limits. It's a mindset to when you see your heart rate at a certain, let's say 175 beats per minute. Oh, I need to back off because I'm going to blow up on this climb. Yeah, you probably will, even when you're looking at power as well. But I think it's more important to focus on the power you're producing than what your heart rate is doing. And there are a lot of folks that come to me, they've never ridden with a power meter, and they're like, oh, I like to ride by feel. I don't need all those things, and I've never considered a power meter and all that. Well, that's fine, but if you're someone that rides by feel, and you come out to my century rides on Saturdays, or you come out to my 10K days, my 10,000 foot climbing days, or 3,000 whatever meters that is, in the metric system, you are going to probably fall flat on your face at some point during that event, during that training ride. I find that a lot of riders that tell me they ride by feel, they surge a lot. They don't know how to pace themselves properly on a climb. As I mentioned, they don't last very well during my century rides. Just feel isn't always great indicator. Perceived effort isn't always a great indicator of your effort. However, taking your perceived effort and then comparing it and contrasting it to your power is a very useful tool, because then it teaches you what you're feeling and what power output that is, and vice versa. I see this power, this is what I feel. I've been doing this for 5 minutes, this is how I feel. And the conjunction of those two is very, very important. Now, by the way, I did a century on Saturday. It's called the Palm Springs Century. And I did a blog post, which I'll also link down below. This is a very, very popular ride, about 5,000 or so riders, and riders of all abilities. And it would not make sense, it would not be prudent, and it would not be safe to be constantly looking at your power on your screen and doing this and doing that. No, you need to ride a little bit by feel, maybe the first 15, 20 miles, because you're just weaving in and out of people. You're on some climbs, and you got to get through all of that. And you just got to stick on the wheel in front of you. So when you're riding in those conditions, the most important thing is safety, of course, and then the wheel in front of you. So don't let that wheel go. Don't let that draft go. And, the head unit, probably useless at that point. But eventually, as I mentioned in the blog post, you're going to be in some portion of the event where all the crowds are gone. You're riding with a very small group of people, keeping your power within a certain range so that you can complete the ride and finish strong would be important. All right, let's move on from that, from number 5, head units and power and heart rate, my opinions on those. So let's move on from that. Number 6 is winter tires. Now, in the GCN video, they talked about people that ride winter tires year round. I have a very strong opinion about these tires here, and hopefully that's focused in, and that's the Continental Gator Skin. I love Continental as a tire company, but this Gator Skin, this is a terrible riding tire, people. Life's too short to ride a terrible riding tire. Please make a comment below as to why if you ride Gator Skin, why, and be polite, be courteous, and please be eloquent in why you ride a Gator Skin tire. Most people that ride this tire don't like getting flats, and they sacrifice so much in riding this tire. This tire has terrible wet grip, which is interesting because this is considered a winter tire, and yet if it rains, this has terrible grip. It has terrible rolling resistance. So I want to bring your attention to a website called bicyclerollingresistance.com, something like that. I'll put the link down below. And of the 104 tires that they've tested, this is like the 98th tire on that list. And just below that, the 99th tire is the Gator Skin hard shell. If you're someone, and this is funny because it's always the same, the people that need the most help are doing the things that prohibit them from being the best that they can be on their limited, let's say, fitness, their limited power output, all those kinds of things. So this tire, in their testing, there's a drum, there's a certain amount of power that's necessary to keep the drum at a certain speed, and then they calculate the power that's necessary for that exercise. This tire, at 100 PSI, which is what they test their tires at, it takes 20 point something watts. I think I've got the numbers here. 20.2 watts to do the same speed that it takes This Continental, same tire brand, the tubeless 5000, this one only takes 8.9 watts. So which would you rather be doing? 20 watts to maintain a certain speed, which, multiply that out, extrapolate that, or 8.9 for that same amount, 8.9 watts for that same speed, right? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So winter tires year round, those people out there, they ride these gator skin hard shells, they ride, whatever. There's tons of them, but this one's the most popular, and that's why I wanted to single this one out. This is a much better tire. It's got better grip in the wet. It has way less rolling resistance. Sure, it punctures more than that one. But, I rode nearly 700 hours last year. I think I had 3 flats all year long. So why would I ride 700 hours on this tire and no flats, or 700 hours on this tire, get 3 flats, takes me, I don't know, 3 minutes to change a flat? If I'm slow, 5, and if everything's gone wrong, maybe 10 minutes. But that's a half hour off the bike for 700 hours of joy. It just never makes sense for me why people ride this crappy tire. All right. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's see. Number 7, rain jackets they talked about. This is something that's just not that important here in Southern California, but we did have rain yesterday, Tuesday. I rode today, Wednesday. I'm still in my kit, but I wanted to get this video out because days have been going by. But if you ride with rain jackets and vests and you ride with all this stuff, yes, it's true, it's not as Aero, but I know riders that feel colder than the next rider. I know a rider who even in 40 degree, 30 degree temperatures, he just wears a short sleeve jersey and that's it. My friend John. So we are all on that spectrum, and we have to decide what we want to wear. I'm of the opinion that I just don't like to carry stuff that in the first 30 minutes of the ride, I will no longer need it after that. Here's what typically happens in Southern California. We have a 30 degree temperature swing. Maybe we start in the 40s and it's in the 70s by midday. That is a lot of different apparel to deal with. So I just deal without it, right? Jersey, short sleeve, deal with it. It's 40 degrees. It'll be fine. Today, I wasn't riding hard. It was an easy day. I have this super thin long sleeve jersey. It was 50, low 50s, and it was like 65 by the end. This was perfect, right? But the thing is, if you are going to wear all that stuff and you're going to carry it on your person somewhere, you need to figure out how to do that. I talked about it in a different point, but your pockets should be filled with food and snacks and stuff like that. I would strongly suggest you start buying wool base layers if you don't have them already. Wool is the absolute best material for you to be riding in. Unfortunately, you see these colors, you can't do this with wool. So wool has lost favor for anything that can be sublimated to get pro team logos all over it and everything else. But wool is the best material that should be on your skin, whether it be your socks or on your chest and your arms. And get yourself some wool base layers. Settle for nothing less than merino wool in your socks and your base layers. And if you are fortunate and lucky enough to find wool jerseys and things like that, get those too. Now, if you're going to wear all that stuff, zip it up. Riding with your stuff flapping, I mean, that's an Aero penalty you shouldn't have to do. In the earlier video, I talked about the spider bag. And this is the spider bag from Assos. And you can see it's just a very, very streamlined item. There are no belts, no buckles, no cinching, nothing to adjust. It just hugs your back, and it's got decent volume. I mean, what else do you need, right? So this is how this would go on. And you could put maybe some food, maybe some stuff. By the way, I don't know if there's any stock of these anymore, but these are fairly rare. But notice how that sits on there, and then I'm going to turn around real quick. Well, side view first, and then back view. So it sits really high, which I like, and I like it because I have access to my pockets, but also I like it because it's just really right behind my head and my helmet. So as far as Aero, I think it's in the right place. Okay, so enough about that. And then I guess one other thing that I had said in the previous video is, I carry a full-size frame pump when I do epic stuff, especially if I'm alone, and then I Velcro it to the top tube, and that's that. Okay, frame pump, people like those mini pumps. Those are great too, but a frame pump, in my opinion, is better. Okay, last item was they talked about water bottles on your bike. And I think it's just a stupid point that they made. But okay, I'll bite on this one. So they talked about how water bottles cause an Aero penalty. Well, you need them. You need your hydration, or you need your fuel. Like in my case, my bottles always have fuel. They rarely have water, unless it's, a short 2-hour ride or something. So you need to carry bottles. But they said that Aero Coach did a study, and, a short bottle, tall bottle, the Aero penalty, all that other stuff. But remember that they're also talking like 40K an hour, so that's 25 miles an hour. People like you and me, we don't ride at 25 miles an hour for any period of time, on a downhill maybe, but that's not our average speed for a 3, 4, 5-hour ride. So a lot of this stuff is sorry. I was going to be profane, but I'm not going to do that. But if you so that was their study, but then Victor Campernots, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think he's Belgium. But he did all these Aero studies, and he, went out for the hour record and all this stuff. So he's totally geeked out as well. He talked about how bikes should have bottles in the frame because, it kind of closes off that main triangle and makes it more Aero. One of the designs that's become really popular is what they call a camtail. So I'm going towards you on my bike. That front portion of the bike down tube is kind of rounded, but the back part is flat, and that's to incorporate the aerodynamics of a bottle being on the down tube. So they also talked about how some bottles can be, or some bikes can be more Aero if the bottle is in the back, so near the seat tube as opposed to the down tube. But then, of course, as I mentioned, some down tubes are designed that way. So I think so at 40K an hour is 5 watts of additional power to have that bottle in your bike. At 30K an hour is 3 watts. I mean, it becomes just negligible at some point, right? 25K, let's say it's 1.5 watts or something. I mean, you need your bottles, so completely ignore point number 8 from GCN. They did mention one thing that I thought was important. If you race triathlons, you already know this. the best place to put those bottles would be off the back of your saddle, because, you know, you've got your big body causing more aerodynamic drag than the bottles would be just behind your butt. So anyway, that's all that I wanted to talk about today. My perspective on GCN's points, and GCN, in my opinion, has become more of a marketing company, but that's okay. They get viewers and they give me content to do rebuttals on. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, we're over 900 subscribers, so please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends, and let's get to 1,000. I'm very grateful for all of you. There's people that are comment frequently, like a gentleman named Rick and Lisa from the Pacific Northwest, and several others. And I really, really appreciate. There's Univega Supersport as well. So I appreciate all of you who make comments and have made this journey fun for me. So please continue to do that. And in the meantime, we'll see you up the road.